See, there always gonna be debaters that try to relate the Savior to Vegas like this the party they making it irritating. There's always a know-it-all that gotta be showing off instead of throwing all this nonsense rolling off. A slippery tongue, the contradictory one. Got Jesus documentaries, never mention the Son. No testamentary to the preemptory out for the one that's simply the kingly creator of all that's spun in the universe, even up to the sun. Every proton molecule he was while it begun. He wasn't finished until he said it was done. Can't diminish this legitimate, never to be expunged. That's what it mean to be a mega over greenery and rise from the ashes like the phoenix, living majorly. That was the scenery from who they thought the cabinetry. Extraordinary majesty, that's why we call him Christ the King. When the enemy coming like a flood, we gon' lift up a standard like what? When the haters come tryna knock the love, we gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. See, there's always gonna be those people that try to play off their evil. They try to keep it all legal, they gotta make it look regal. But chickens don't fly, and egos don't fry. So all you gotta do is be you ignoring the lies. Then eventually the people will see it's all in disguise. Cause your enemy will bury itself in his own demise. Then the Lord will avenge you and flip the plans they devised. The attacks to your character buried to their surprise. In your silence there was power you ain't even recognized. So she focused on that cross, my God, don't compromise. And let that standard in you just begin to arise. The inheritance that God has for you is the prize. Christ moves natural for you and never contrived. Keep yourself healthy in Him and never deprived. King time, build the empire in overdrive. As I thrive in my winnings in the Father, I'm alive. When the enemy coming like a flood, we gon' lift up a standard like what? When the haters come tryna knock the love, we gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. Show them that God, no matter what, no matter how many times he tried to crush you, try to take you out, try to bury your character, show him that God. Yeah. See, there always gonna be debaters that try to relate the Savior to Vegas like this the party they making it irritating. There's always a know-it-all that gotta be showing off instead of throwing all this nonsense rolling off. A slippery tongue, the contradictory one. Got Jesus documentaries, never mention the Son. No testamentary to the preemptory out for the one that's simply the kingly creator of all that's spun in the universe, even up to the sun. Every proton molecule he was while it begun. He wasn't finished until he said it was done. Can't diminish this legitimate, never to be expunged. That's what it mean to be a mega over greenery and rise from the ashes like the phoenix, living majorly. That was the scenery from who they thought the cabinetry. Extraordinary majesty, that's why we call him Christ the King. When the enemy coming like a flood, we gon' lift up a standard like what? When the haters come tryna knock the love, we gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. See, there's always gonna be those people that try to play off their evil. They try to keep it all legal, they gotta make it look regal. But chickens don't fly, and egos don't fry. So all you gotta do is be you ignoring the lies. Then eventually the people will see it's all in disguise. Cause your enemy will bury itself in his own demise. Then the Lord will avenge you and flip the plans they devised. The attacks to your character buried to their surprise. In your silence there was power you ain't even recognized. So she focused on that cross, my God, don't compromise. And let that standard in you just begin to arise. The inheritance that God has for you is the prize. Christ moves natural for you and never contrived. Keep yourself healthy in Him and never deprived. King time, build the empire striving, my winnings in the Father, I'm alive. When the enemy coming like a flood, yeah, we gon' lift up a standard like what? When the haters come tryna knock the love, we gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. Show them that God, no matter what, no matter how many times he tried to crush you, try to take you out, try to bury your character, show him that God. Yeah. See, there always gonna be debaters that try to relate the Savior to Vegas. Like this the party they making it irritating. There's always a know-it-all that gotta be showing off instead of they throwing all this nonsense rolling off. The slippery tongue, the contradictory one. Got Jesus documentaries, never mention the Son. No testamentary to the preemptory out for the one that's simply the kingly creator of all that's spun in the universe, even up to the sun. Every proton molecule he was while it begun. He wasn't finished until he said it was done. Can't diminish this legitimate, never to be expunged. That's what it mean to be a mega over greenery and rise from the ashes like the phoenix, living majorly. That was the scenery from who they thought the cabinetry, extraordinary majesty. That's why we call him Christ the King. When the enemy coming like a flood, we gon' lift up a standard like what? When the haters come tryna knock the love, we gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. See, there's always gonna be those people that try to play off their evil. They try to keep it all legal, they gotta make it look regal. But chickens don't fly, and egos don't fry. So all you gotta do is be you, ignoring the lies. Then eventually the people will see it's all in disguise. Cause your enemy will bury himself in his own demise. Then the Lord will avenge you and flip the plans they devise. The attacks to your character buried to their surprise. In your silence there was power you ain't even recognized. So see, focus on that cross, my God, don't compromise. And let that standard in you just begin to arise. The inheritance that God has for you is the prize. Christ moves natural for you and never contrived. Keep yourself healthy in him and never deprived. King time, build the empire in overdrive. As I thrive in my winnings in the Father, I'm alive. When the enemy coming like a flood, yeah, we gon' lift up a standard like what? When the haters come tryna knock the love, we gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. We gon' show them that God don't matter what. Show them that God, no matter what, no matter how many times he tried to crush you, try to take you out, try to bury your character, show him that God. Yeah. See, there always gonna be debaters that try to relate the Savior to Vegas. Like this the party they making it irritating. There's always a know-it-all that gotta be showing off instead of they throwing all this nonsense rolling off. The slippery tongue, the contradictory one. Got Jesus documentaries, never mention the Son. No testamentary to the preemptory out for the one that's simply the kingly creator of all that's spun in the universe, even up to the sun. Every proton molecule he was while it begun. He wasn't finished until he said it was done. Can't diminish this legitimate, never to be expunged. That's what it mean to be a mega over greenery and rise from the ashes like the phoenix, living majorly. That was the scenery from who they thought the cabinetry, extraordinary majesty. That's why we call him Christ the King. When the enemy coming like a flood, we gon' lift up a standard like what? Faith is a lifestyle. It is the mountain on which you stand that makes you believe that a dream is actually attainable. It is the concrete evidence that makes the logically impossible seem completely tangible. It seemed hopeless, but faith. I can't prove it, but faith. I can't explain it, but my faith has given me peace. I'm a Christian with $100 million vision. Can nobody box me and say that's a contradiction? Goal driven, God just blessed me with the ambition. Look up when the rest, erase the definition. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live today, and we have a really important conversation, and it's important because it's hard. And race is always a really difficult conversation. It's always very divisive in its nature, and it's just a tough conversation to have, because the truth of the matter is none of us picked our race. None of us picked it. We were chosen to be the race that we are, and everyone has to respect that is a fact. And so this conversation is going to be cool because I get to bring on a great friend of mine who is, who typically stays away from conversations like this because just of the nature and what he does. And so I think it's really, I really appreciate him. I think it's cool that he's doing this, that he's going to be a part of this. And so I hope you guys stick around. This is going to be a really, really cool conversation. This is the Elevation Podcast. My name is Shawn Riff-Raff. Let's go. King. Royalty, stand up, brand up, fam up, hand out, no way, hands up, know what, name that, it's mine, claim that, it's time, message, we shine, above all, the decline, the darkness cannot last, the shadow of my past, before I gain knowledge of heritage, I have the bloodline that I share, most powerful out here, the mover of mountains is who I am touting, the richest among us is who I'm the son of, from sundown to sun up, that's how I then come up, position is just mine, the favor in due time, can't have it, man, you lying, the powerless, you trying, enemy beneath me, is nothing to teach me, the people receive me, cause my God complete me, and my God let's keep me, and my God they free me, and my God redeem me, and my God relieve me, I'm chasing the million, crown me, I am winning my position, God's giving, God's sending, God's chosen. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Elevation Podcast. My name is Shawn Riff-Raff, and today I have, again, a great friend of mine, Rob Kowalski. What's up, brother?
What's up, Shawn? How's it going?
How's everything going, man?
Oh man, good. I'm a little nervous, to be honest. I felt like when I was like mentally rehearsing, what I wanted to say, I was like, I was almost like felt like I was about to get into a fight. I don't know why. I'm just being honest. Like I was nervous, like I was about to fight somebody, and I'm like, what's going on?
Oh, I'm moderately sure that is not the type of energy you probably need tonight.
I hope it don't come to that.
So let's talk about what's going on in the world to hear your perspective.
Sure.
Right? If you follow my page at all, you have already heard my perspective.
I know your perspective.
Loud and clear. But let's talk about your perspective for a second. When we're in the world and we see what's going on, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about what happens?
So first off, I want to just thank you for talking me into doing this because I run a nonprofit. And it's all about helping people become the best version of themselves through the power of community. So I don't want to ever alienate anyone, because I know that there's people that don't see it the way that I see it, and I never want them to think that they're not welcome in the group, because ultimately community is the answer to everything. It's an answer to all these problems.
Absolutely.
So when I see division, occurring, which is what you're seeing right now, is races being divided, and not even just races, but just ideologies.
Right.
That it's not the answer. The answer is not to be separated from each other, because that is what the enemy wants. He wants us to divide us, because the more we're against each other, the more we're not even focused on the real issues like at hand. So I'm grateful that you talked me into it, because I was able to express that to you and say, look, I don't know if I want to talk about this because I don't want to alienate anybody. Specifically, I'm a Christian, and ultimately my goal is always to be a light, but if possible, to be able to talk to my friends about the Lord. And I don't want to ruin the chance to talk to 50% of the people, that see it the other way, and alienate people. You said, I think you said something along the lines of, well, that should be the basis. That should be the foundation for the conversation, is built on that, really. And I love that. And that's really kind of what convinced me to say, okay, cool. As long as we can start there, and I know you and me may walk away from this conversation still with the same exact opinion, but we're still going to be friends, and we're still going to work together, and we're going to hopefully change the world, but it's not going to, that's not going to stop us. So I just want to say that first. But the way I guess I didn't say much for about a week. I want to share this, actually. Can you tell me where it's at?
What's that?
Sorry. I want to share this live.
Oh, it's on the Shawn Riff-Raff.
Oh, not the Sean Broadnecks?
No, not Shawn.
That's why I can't find it. Sorry about that. So when I saw all this going down, I didn't really say anything for probably about a week. I just kept quiet. I was processing my own emotions, to be honest, because I was trying to figure out where I stood on all of it. And I go back to Baltimore, is I have to start there because I live in Baltimore. I grew up in Baltimore, and when I see what's going on, it reminds me of 2015, in Baltimore with the riots. And if you look at what's happened since 2015 in Baltimore, it is a shit show. Right. The leadership has no idea how to stop the murder rate. It's skyrocketing. We broke a record in 2017 per capita with like 344 murders, I think it was. Then in 2019, we broke our own record, and that was last year. So when that's happening, you're hearing about people getting beat up at the Inner Harbor, people getting attacked in Canton and like good, decent neighborhoods. You're seeing a population exodus, which means less tax money. You're seeing restaurants close all over the city. I'm seeing it because I know I live and work in the city. Or I still do, and that means less jobs right down the road. Now there's businesses that are closing because there's no tourism in Baltimore. Nobody wants to come to Baltimore anymore. It's like going to Beirut. So no tourists want to come to Baltimore because of all the shit. So now that's compounding the problem. Okay. And the frustration and the lack of opportunity. And then you got, like what I'm saying is, I guess, when I look at Baltimore and I look at the mistakes that were made by leadership, I see the same mistakes being made by mayors and governors all over the country. And to me, it's not black versus white. It's good versus evil. And there's white people out breaking windows and burning shit, and those people need to be locked up. And I'm not saying that there's not conversations that need to be had, or peaceful protesting is fine, but you have to establish law and order. And this is coming from somebody that's broke the law lots of times. I've been arrested 20 times, probably more. So even when I think about something like white privilege, I'm like, that it's not a matter of skin color. It's a matter of good decisions. Like, how many times have you been arrested?
Not 20.
Okay. Have you been arrested?
Is traffic. I think twice. I got, like when I was like 19, I think I got arrested for a suspended license. And then I think maybe when I was 22, arrested for maybe 22, 23, arrested for something else stupid.
Yeah. So, have you ever known me to make more money than you since you've known me?
I don't know.
you kind of know my economic status is not good. So what I'm saying, and do I work at least as hard as you? Yes, I do. At least as hard. I'm a hard worker. And I don't make, so like the whole idea of white privilege, like I grew up in Brooklyn, Maryland, 1 block from the projects. My mom was 14 when she got pregnant with me. Sure. Never got child support, 8th grade education, raised me working a couple jobs. And there was just poor white people and there was poor black people. And that was it. You know, we were in it together. I got no privilege. So, and the whole idea of white privilege is, to me, it's like, it's a demonic agenda that makes you feel inferior to me because you can never be white. So that means you'll never be privileged. That's bullshit. It's a matter of working hard and making good decisions. When I made bad decisions, I got locked up. You know, I wasn't treated any better but when I make good decisions now, I'm in a much better place. I think what's the real issue is, you know, upbringing and what's two parents at home. I didn't have two parents. You know, I think that's a big part of rearing a successful adult, you know, a child into an adult is having that. And, you know, when I see the people that are pushing the race card, it's all the liberals. And what is the liberal agenda? It's very much like not family. It's not conservatives. It's not conservative values. It's a lot of other stuff, you know, very pro everybody, you know, is tolerant of everybody. And, you know, it doesn't matter what gender you want to recognize yourself as, or, hey, everybody should be able to get a paid for abortion and all that. Like, that is not conservative. Like, that goes against family values. So that's the issue I believe we should be looking at is conservative values, because that's how you're going to raise successful adults.
So here's what I'm gonna challenge you tonight. So I completely understand your position, yet I'm in a place to be able to hopefully successfully challenge your thinking, not to change your thinking, but for you to think a little bit different from a point of view. When I like to stay away from political associations, me personally, because, you know, good leadership is good leadership and bad leadership is bad leadership, no matter what team you're on. But when we talk about privilege, we're not talking about having more than the other. And I think that, like, there is a level of individual responsibility that everyone has to their own life. Then there is a level. Of advantage that some people have over the other one. That's, for instance, statistically speaking, in Baltimore City, the police have been classically known to police one area more than the other area. And that's not anything new. It's generationally been the same. So
let me ask you a question. Is that area have higher crime?
Of course, because you police it higher.
Okay. Well, so let me ask you this, and this is going to be politically incorrect.
That's okay.
If people of a certain, let's just say people that look a certain way
Sure.
are the ones that, or subscribe to a certain way of thinking, are the ones that are blowing up planes. Do you want those people checked more often than people that don't look that way? Because some people would say no. And I just say that that's just practical. Right. If I'm a white guy, if a white brown hair guys that are in their 40s are walking around smacking people in the head with a 2x4, and then the cops start checking, they roll up on me and say, hey, we need to check your trunk. I would expect that, because, you know, you're trying to keep the rest of the population. You're not, you know, like, and that's the thinking that we go into is we try to make one person comfortable, but we'll make 10,000 people uncomfortable in the process of making that one person comfortable.
So here's the question. When did someone tell you that neighborhood had more crime than other ones?
I don't know. I'm not a cop.
Right.
It's the first I've heard of this.
The cop wouldn't know either, because it was before his time, right? When were you told that neighborhood, like, so we can make a point to say that, you know, because we saw, it's a logical thought, because we saw Muslim people on 9/11 get on the plane and take it over and crash it, we can think that we're going to look at Muslims a little bit different now because we saw what we saw on 9/11. It's a logical thought. The problem is, when did 9/11 happen for the part of Baltimore that is policed harder than the other part? Like,
well, this is,
when was it told to them, right? Like, when was it told to them that this area is worse? And there is a specific point in history when that was told to them.
Well, let me say this, because I watched the video today and it talked about Baltimore, and it talked about how 100% of the city council is black, the mayor's black, the chief of police is black. I mean, everyone in leadership is black, and you're going to say it's racism, and it's like it's ludicrous to even think that everybody in charge is black.
Right.
How would it be racist?
Right. Okay, so back up a second. So back to the same question. When were we told that this part of the city, right, was more dangerous than every other part of the city? When were we told that?
I don't know.
Right. 1971, war on drugs happened. Baltimore City was one of the worst areas hit, right? Then, even though the war on drugs, it's equal, right? Whites do an equal amount of drugs as blacks, right? It is an equal thing, right? Yeah, so if it is the same probability that if you pull a white person over, you will catch drugs on them at the same probability as a black person, sometimes more depending on where you are. However, when they were police, they were only told to police in one particular area. Therefore, the statistics of that particular crime went up in that area.
Okay.
When we say systemic racism, is because if you continue to do that over generations, and this is only one point because there's 100 we could talk about, but if you continue to do that over generations, right? Let's say a Muslim didn't do 9/11. Let's say it wasn't a Muslim that did 9/11. We just suspect that Muslims may do 9/11, right? And let's say 9/11 never happens. We just suspect Muslims, right? And we just keep going to the places where Muslims are. We keep going to the places where Muslims are. We keep going to the places that Muslims are. The same thing with blacks in the early 70s, which is right after 68, right after 68 when King died and all of that stuff. And we kept the system taught us to look at one particular person, one particular type of people, and we kept looking and looking and looking and looking. Yes, we found stuff. You know why? Because bad people exist in every community,
Sure.
right? Because that is what it is. Bad people exist in every community, and of course you found stuff. But if you keep looking, you keep finding. You keep looking, you keep finding. And so then you could say to one community, well, if y'all don't have nothing to hide, then, nothing will ever happen. But that is completely, absolutely unrealistic, right? Because if I go to another community, it'll be the same. And so over time, it becomes a culture to attack the one community. There is a emotional and psychological damage that happens when that happens to you or your community. Over and over and over. It is emotional. It is psychological. It is, for lack of better terms, oppressive for that to happen over and over and over. But that happens not only in Baltimore, and then if you add in the other, which seems like if you look at it from an individual point of view, which I understand that's how you look at it. So we can say because Shawn was successful in life, right? And because Shawn worked hard, and because Shawn, you got to understand, Shawn ain't never lived in Baltimore. Like, I didn't come up like you, right? Like, me and you are exact opposites. Like, you got the black story, I don't.
Which proves that privilege is it's from economic status. Do you think that I'm more privileged than Obama's children?
Absolutely not.
Well, I'm white. So if I have white privilege, I should be.
Well,
no.
if you have white privilege, it's less likely for you to get harassed by a police officer on
Let
a
me ask you
random
this.
than
Yeah, but
Obama.
I looked up some stats today, and there's so many more. There's twice as many more white people killed by cops than there are black people, even though
Twice as many by statistics or twice as many by number, because it's 70% more white people in the country.
no, by number. Actually, I'm looking at it right now. This is on Statista.com. So in 2020 or 2017, there was 457 whites killed by police, 399 in 2018, 370 in 2019, and so far there's been 172 in 2020. And now if you look at the blacks, it's about half.
Right.
Even though the black
also
community
outnumber us 8-1.
commits a very large percentage of the violent crimes compared to the population number that they make up.
Right.
And I also looked up what is the statistics for a black person to be killed, or the amount of murders of black people by white cops is 0.017. 1.7 out of every, what is that, 1,000? Yeah. No, zero. So one would be 0.17 would be, so it's 1.7 out of every 10,000 deaths. 94%. Let me just make sure I'm quoting this right. Yeah. 94% are killed by other black people. So your chances of being murdered by a white cop are 1.5 in 10,000 out of the deaths, of all the deaths that occur. So like, it's this. This guy.
It's a very similar percentage if you're talking about whites.
What's that?
It's a very similar percentage. It's a little less, but it's a very similar percentage when you're talking about whites. I think it's like an 88% chance if you're white that you'll be killed by another white.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't look that up. But what I'm saying is it's a narrative that the numbers don't back it up. Like if you look at the numbers.
Which part?
The fact that the police are racist, defund the police, which is ridiculous. I actually saw this video. I don't know if you saw it, where the people were getting ready to loot a store. The store hunter come out with a chainsaw. Did you see that? And then the lady goes, "Call 911," and they're like, "They ain't coming." Who are you going to call?
So
who are you going to call when you can't call the police?
Okay, so let me hop in on you for a second, right? Around the country, look this up if you want to real quick. Around the country, blacks are arrested for regular, are pulled over for regular traffic stops 30% more per capita than whites.
I don't doubt it.
Huh?
I don't doubt that.
Hispanics are pulled over like 28% more, right? So if you look at statistically speaking, right, when people see, not to mention 50% in 2016, promise you, I just read the statistic the other day, 2016, 50% of all people in the medical field asked, do you think a black person has a higher tolerance for pain than other races? 50% of the people said yes.
I don't. So what does that say to you?
That says to me that in every bit of, that says to me, from the thinking of, let's say, a police officer, right? A police officer with no chill, right? To put his knee on the neck of a black man says that he doesn't feel the same way about this person that he does about a white person, that he may be a little more empathetic, because psychologically speaking, he is taught
He's thinking
himself,
he's like me.
Huh?
He's thinking he's like me, right? Sure.
So
I get it.
Psychologically speaking, he's taught himself that this person can take this. This person can, and when you start to look at general statistics. Now, I want to reiterate that I don't believe that every black person in the world is good, right? There are bad people in every sector of every type of people. You can always find bad people. But when statistics show that it's a higher sector of bad people in this particular group, right? The statistic is lying. right? Because there's not a higher amount of bad people in this group. It's a higher amount of people, not to mention another statistic, 50% of all black people, 50% of all the wrongful convictions in this country are wrongful convictions of blacks. There is a thought. Every white person, or every that's not white person. Every person knows. No, every white person knows that if I say a black guy did it, right, I'm more likely to get away with that crime, with my crime, my evil. Just like the lady in Florida killed her own kid and said 2 black guys kidnapped him or whatever, and called the police and said 2 black guys killed him. The same with the lady, all in the same week. The same with the lady in New York.
Yeah.
Picked up the phone and called the police and said,
and she got caught.
Yeah, they all got caught. But
my thought is that might have worked hundreds of years ago.
No, it works today. That's why they still do it.
No, not with DNA and all the other things that they use.
It works today. People still, like, it was so easy for this lady to pick the phone up and say, black guy. She knew she could do it. She's known her whole life. That's
if she would have said 2 white guys did it, it would have played the same. Like,
maybe, but she didn't say that. That's called white privilege.
What I'm saying is there's slavery existed in this country. It did. But first off, my great grandfather came from Poland. He was never a slave owner. You're a slave, and I'm sure your great grandfather wasn't a slave. It's old. I mean, it doesn't play anymore. All that existed, but now we're talking about what? We're talking about 100 plus years. It's time to get off of that argument and victim mentality. Victim mentality doesn't empower people. It takes the power away. I grew up in Brooklyn. Victim mentality, because what it does is it gives you an excuse to not go get the bag. I know that I'm responsible for my success. Nobody's going to give it to me. I can't blame anybody else for not getting it. We live in the greatest country in the world. There's never been a country like America, as racially and ethnically diverse as America is. There's never been a country like this. But we still want to say it's racist because it gives us an out.
It gives who an out?
It gives whoever takes it an out. I lived a block from the projects. I saw white people in welfare their whole lives, and it ruined their lives because they inherently thought that they needed a hand up or a handout from the government, and they didn't go out and get it.
So let me ask you something. The top 20 richest people in the world, in the country, excuse me, our top 20 richest people in the country, there's no black people. Why do you think that is? You think it's because
I don't know. Do you think the white man is holding them down?
I don't think the white man is holding them down. I'm just saying, like, I
look at people like Ben Carson or Candace Owens, people that are from the hood that are highly successful. They made good decisions and they got rewarded for it. And it boils down to the fact that if you do the right thing, and I saw lots of white people do the wrong thing, and a lot of it was because they were just shitty people. They were born in poverty. And look, I don't disagree. Do black people, because of slavery hundreds of years ago, do they have a disadvantage now because they're probably starting at zero? Yes, just like I do. I had a disadvantage because I was dirt poor. So I have to work harder. But I'm not going to blame anybody and say, oh man, my father, didn't pay child support.
I don't think
knocked my mom up, and because it's a cop out.
Let's start here. Let's hear it, because me and you are so different, which is really cool. I can say it like this because I was more privileged than you growing up, right? I have never had that story, so I don't have an absent father. I don't have my parents have been married to this day for 43 years. And I came up in, let's say, the Cosby family, right? Like pretty much that's my story. I don't have the type of struggle that that a lot of people have. On the flip side of that, access on the flip side of that, when I walk the streets, when I'm in the world, right? I've never in my life, nor my family have never pulled welfare, right? I have never been on any government assistance. I haven't been as much as on unemployment, right? Just because it's just not in my DNA. However, I still have to teach my son how to interact with the police, and that's a conversation that doesn't happen in other groups. Like I don't have to teach, like, listen, all right, listen, it is more likely. In 1988, I'm sure you heard it, there was a group called NWA that wrote a song, right? It
Yeah,
was
I
called
love
F the
love
Police.
that NWA. After police. Yeah,
Right.
right.
So there was a song that came out in 1988, After Police, right? They wrote that song. They weren't creating the situation; they were reflecting it, and I think that there is a culture in which, and not to mention, go back. I grew up in an absolutely. I was not cognizant of race growing up because everywhere I looked, there was all black people. So I just assumed that the world reflected where I was from, right? Grew up in PG County, Maryland. There were black people everywhere. It's 88% black. So when looking at a group like NWA, they were writing songs about what they reflected, right? Police brutality and the things they reflected. But Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, they all talked about police brutality, right? They all talked about how they were untreated, not just by police and not just by white police. And I think that we get this so messed up. It's not just by white police, it's in the system of police altogether, right? So they were, and then after 1998, we then got the chance in 1988, excuse me. Then we got a chance in 1991 to see police brutality in real time as we watched the Rodney King, So we know that what NWA was saying was truth. Right? It was true. And so we have watched police brutality over the years and over the years and over the years and over the years. And for some reason, we keep saying it's just we keep saying, oh, it's just a couple of bad. It could be anybody. We don't know, because if police, for instance, you talk a lot about individuality, right? Like a person is responsible for their own actions. But if someone else sees you and they only see a black person, they're going to treat me the same way they treated Rodney King, regardless of where I come from, regardless of my background, regardless of what I've achieved in my life, regardless of it is simply like we don't see the individuality of a person. We just see the black guy, and so when we say systemic racism, it's not an excuse to get over. It's not saying that we don't want police. And I think it's a bad word to say defund the police, because it sounds like we're saying take money from the police or take all of the funding from the police. That is not defund the police like defund Planned Parenthood. It's defund the police like take the money where you're putting into tanks and military style police equipment and put that into the community, because it's the same problem. That is what we have to reckon within ourselves, right? The same problem, the policing problem, is the community problem, right? Is the basis of why people act like, for lack of better terms, animals, is because they're treated like animals. And while they act like they're in a war zone, is because they're treated like they're in a war zone.
Well,
and so,
in a lot of ways they are. There's very little opportunity in those areas. So people are trying to do what they can to get out. I know a lot of people sell drugs. I started stripping. That was my way out. But when you don't have opportunity, you get creative and you try to figure a way out. And it goes back to
there was mad laws that came down on the drug dealer, but not on the stripper, right? There was mad laws. Like, while they're both equally as, in my opinion, they're both equally as immoral. there are mad laws that came down on one particular sector of people. Because think about this, right? NWA, I keep going back to that because it's so obvious. NWA made a song, and the world villainized them, right? They villainized them. They villainized "quote unquote" gangster rap.
Oh, the world did, because I think they probably sold millions of records and made a ton of money.
Right.
They didn't have it. They didn't have it that bad.
Okay, they villainized the style of music. They
I think the cops did. Sure.
No, everybody did, except young people loved it. But here's the point I'm making when I say that. I'm making the point here that when the world sees a certain type of people, right, they'll villainize every single thing that they do, right? NWA, on the flip side of that, didn't care. They took it to the bank, right? They shouldn't have had to, which is a completely different, system as to why the black unemployment rate is always double the national one. And so, but whatever you can do to make money to get out of that, that's what you did. And everybody from NWA is successful because they used what was against them to build success on it. However, if let's say if drugs are what they were using to do the NWA thing, right? But drugs is putting people in jail at a high rate, and people are like, weed is legalized, let's say, pretty much in all of the states. However, there are still people sitting in jail because of weed laws, that happened in the 80s.
Sure.
The 90s.
Probably white people too. The thing is you look, whatever you would look for, you find.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that that there aren't racist cops or racist people. That guy, Derek Chauvin, probably a racist. He's going to be punished severely. His life is over. His life is over. So, but I love something I watched some video by Morgan Freeman, and he's like, they said, how do you stop racism? He said, stop talking about it. Since Black Lives Matter
has been saying, how do you stop
no,
cancer?
It increases racism. I have black friends, and it's driven a wedge between me and them because of you almost have to admit that you're privileged. Let me ask you this. You were born in the United States. Should you go around and apologize to everybody that lives in a third world country because you were born here? No, you can't control that.
But
automatically, should you feel guilty because you're an American? No, I'm not going to feel guilty because I was born white. I didn't choose that, and I didn't choose to be born in the hood either. So it's like the whole idea of white guilt, and it's stupid to me.
So the idea of white guilt, right, is in my opinion, the idea of white guilt is unfair and it's false, right? To say to someone, I recognize that me and you have come from a different place, and I empathize with the place that you've come from. And I empathize with the place that you come from. It's not that's not saying that's not guilt, because both me and I am who I am, and I'm happy to be who I am. I empathize with the place that you've been from, that you come from, and I don't think that there should be any sort of guilt in being who you are. And I think that a lot of times, I think that the thing that whites, in the conversation, do is it's a hard, like it's almost like we want to make people feel bad that and that's what white privilege seems to do. It makes you feel bad because you were born white, as if anybody had any control over it. And I'm not interested in the guilt factor of what it. I'm interested in recognizing that, hey, this has been unfair to a certain type of people for generations. And it's not like you can, like today we can say, oh, it's because they act a certain way. Well, if you ever say they, right? If you ever say they, you've generalized, right? Because every black person is different and individual, just like every white person is different and individual. So when you say they, we generalized. That generalization is racist. Like it is what it is.
It's on both sides.
Huh?
It's on both sides. It's a sin issue, you know.
Oh,
there's
it's not only just on both sides. It's everywhere. But in this country, we created race, right? In the Bible, we can argue about who was white and who was black, but the truth is, race didn't happen until America happened. So that technically, though there were Romans and there were Ethiopians and there were Egyptians, so there were white people and black people, the truth is there was no race. Right, because that didn't exist.
Well, think about the Jews and the Samaritans. The Jews were very racist against the Samaritans. They thought they were less than them. They would take the long way around their country so they didn't have to walk through it because they felt like they were lesser than them. So this is something that's been going on since the beginning, and it will.
The categorization is human, right? But I'm saying the social construct of racism is American. So the categorization, it's like that in the Middle East. They have a category for, Sunni and Shiites. They have a category in different areas because they categorize people, and there's always an upper class and a lower class, and there's always so there's always a reason. But when we talk about this particular country, right? This particular country designed, it made it easier to succeed as a white person than it did to succeed as a black person. So that, whether we want to address it, whether we think we should ignore it and it would just go away on its own, whether we think it's the truth, right? And I don't
disagree. I don't disagree that all happened. I don't. But let me ask you this. So this is a quote that I read today, and I want to read it to you.
Sure.
It says, "There's another class of colored people who make a business of keeping the troubles, the wrongs, and the hardships of the Negro race before the public. Having learned that they are able to make a living out of their troubles, they have grown into the settled habit of advertising their wrongs, partly because they want sympathy and partly because it pays. Some of these people do not want the Negro race to lose his grievances because they do not want to lose their jobs. There's a certain class of race problem solvers who don't want the patient to get well." That was Booker T. Washington.
Sure.
And I was like, man, it's still true. And you have these people that are in political office that make money off of keeping people angry and divided. Look, Baltimore has been ran by the Democrats, who are the people that are shouting that this is a problem the loudest. They've been running the city for 65 years. Then fix it. If it's really an issue, you're in charge. Fix it.
Yeah.
When you see somebody, look. They wouldn't say somebody like Trump is a racist, but you look at his track record, lowest African American unemployment rate in the country's history.
But it's still double the unemployment rate. So yes, the unemployment rate in
their wages went up 10%. He funded historically black colleges. He opportunity zones, the Reformation for the Criminal Act. I forget what it was called, but he's like, the thing is.
Yet he got into office by being racist.
Because he said what? He said what?
Well, got into office by separating us from Mexicans and Hispanics, right? Or
wanting to build a wall.
That's how he won, right? He tapped into.
I'm a strong believer in borders, in closed borders.
Actually,
even Obama wanted those. Even Obama wanted borders. He just didn't make it happen.
Right.
He did.
Well, Bush did too.
Go back and look at his speeches before where he said we have to have a border.
Bush did too. So did Clinton. So did George W.
Right.
So did Reagan.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with racism.
No, it's the manner in which he did it, and so there is a boiling sector of the country under the surface, right, in which you tap into to win a fight, and which Trump tapped into. That everyone which Trump tapped into.
You don't think the Democrats do that all the time? They play the race card because it's convenient. It works.
I think.
Which is crazy to me. Let me say this, because I see so many African Americans that are.
So hold on. I want to bring it.
Go ahead, sure.
Before I do that, I want to bring to. I don't believe that this problem is either Democrat or Republican. I am personally unaffiliated. So so I do recognize that a lot of black people are Democrat, but I think a lot of black people would be Republicans if Republicans care to reach out to that sector more. But they don't because they feel like they won't win it, so they don't. And so
no, I think they're trying to. Like you see, I heard Candace Owens say something yesterday or the day before where she said black liberals become black conservatives, not the other way around. There's a reason for that. You don't see black conservatives become liberals. It's like a slavery to the mindset. They're trying to enslave you to make you think you're lesser than. It's almost, and if you go back, like Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. The Democrats
he also wanted to send blacks back to Africa.
The Democrats were the party that lost the Civil War.
Absolutely.
So is it possible that they're playing you? Possibly. Is it possible?
It's possible that both sides are playing you.
I'm not saying that both sides. Yeah, they don't play us on some level. My pick for president. Somebody called me out for being a Trump supporter. Was Ben Carson. I went to his rally. I got pictures with him. I love that dude. I read his books. I love his ideology. It has nothing to do with skin color. It's all about the fact that, look, if you work hard and you do the right thing, you can make it. That is such a great message.
But it's wrong.
It's not wrong. He made it. Candace Owens made it.
It's absolutely wrong. Because
why? You worked hard. You made it. You made good decisions.
My mother ran a $2 million company. Of course I made it.
And she made it.
Right. But that's wrong. I
so
had an advantage.
How would she have made it?
Advantage of everybody else.
If the country's so racist, how did she make it? My mom was born in the hood or raised me in the hood.
Yeah.
Why didn't
we have different stories? But the point is, the point that here is that it's not true that if you work hard, you'll make it. Right.
It is true.
I guess it depends on. Everybody doesn't have the capacity to do that. Everybody doesn't have the capacity to or the understanding because everybody is different and everybody is on different levels. Everybody doesn't have the capacity to do that. So there are some people who can make it because they work hard. And it's like that across the board. But there are some people who going to always they're not going to be the type of people that make it. And the people who work hard and could build something out of nothing and have that type of stamina and it is arrogant of me to think that everybody is like me or that everybody should be like me. Some people just want to go to work and go home and spend time with their family, and that's all. They don't care about reaching the top of the pinnacle. They don't care about getting to the top of the food chain. They don't care about climbing the corporate ladder. They just want to go to work, make a good living, and go home and spend time with the kids.
You don't think anybody can do that?
No, anybody can't do that if the economic opportunities aren't the same for someone who is like that. And we keep saying that, all you gotta do is work hard.
If you believe they're not there, they're not there.
Say it again.
And that's where they enslave you, because if they tell you that they're not there, then you believe that they're not there.
What do you mean?
But you said if the economic opportunities aren't there, your mom ran a $2 million company. The economic opportunity was there for her.
Right. She's built like that.
Okay.
But she didn't run $2 million. She didn't run a $2 million company.
Not everybody's. I can't run a $2 million company. Sure, I'm not built like that. And it has nothing to do with my skin color.
What do you mean?
I'm just not that smart. I'm not smart enough to run a $2 million company. And it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm white or black. I'm not that smart to run a company like that. Look, and if somebody's idea of success is going home to their family, going to work and going home to their family and raising their kids, God bless them. That's great. Let them do that.
If work exists.
When I
you
say
got to remember,
make it,
right now, the country is at a 13% unemployment rate, which means that the African American community is at a 26 or 28% unemployment rate, which means that that person who was just going to work and coming home to feed their family, right, doesn't have that opportunity anymore. And it's story after story after story. Yes, Trump lowered the rate. He lowered the unemployment rate in America, right? But for some reason, he didn't lower the rate for African Americans because it was still double. Even though the rate overall was lowered, it was still...
I'm going to fact check this. Because that's not what
It's still double for African Americans. So yes, you lowered it, and yes, you can take credit for lowering.
Okay, so you're saying because he couldn't get it down to as low as that's his fault because he couldn't get it down to as low as everybody else's. I didn't blame
him. I didn't blame him, nor did I praise him. I'm just telling you the truth.
Yeah, but I know that their wages went up almost 10%. It was like 9 point something.
So did everybody else's.
He funded historically black colleges. He created opportunity zones in cities, and he did this Criminal Reformation Act, which was somebody else's idea. That's not something that a racist does. Regardless, I know this conversation isn't about Trump, but if America was such a racist country, why are all these different races dying to come here? If I was in Nazi Germany, in the 40s or in the 30s or 40s, and if I was a Jewish person living in the world, I wouldn't want to go to Germany because knowing as racist as it is and how much they're against me. If this is such a racist country, why do so many racists from around the world want to come here? Because they all want to come here.
Well, that's a simple answer, because this country is built on capitalism. So everybody wants to come here, race or not. What is the definition of capitalism? China is not built on the type of capitalism that we are. Their economy is only 20 years old. Like they were just becoming an economic force in the world. But their economy is super young, and there are 1 billion people in China. It's not that here. So yeah, I'm a fly to America, live this American dream. That's cool.
So basically it says capitalism. I just looked at the definition up. Sure. This is an economic system. In it, the government plays a secondary role. Sure. People and companies make most of the decisions and own most of the property. So that I agree with what you're saying. That's why people want to come here.
That's
the people that are propagating this whole division, racism, everything that they're saying. Let's take away the political jargon, right? Yeah.
There are people around the entire country in the world, but let's talk about the country. There are people in the entire country that understand that police brutality and racist things are a truth. Is what you're saying that it's not a truth?
Well, what I'm saying is the numbers don't support it. When I see a 0.017% of white police officers.
Okay, let's go back for a second.
Okay, you're saying police brutality, yes.
No, let's go back for a second. Let me show you how this works. Okay,
sure.
Ahmaud Arbery a few weeks ago, they arrested the police officers. Now, when did Ahmaud Arbery actually die?
So why did they arrest the police officers? Because I didn't think that they
wasn't police officers. They were the former police officer and his son, and Ahmaud Arbery. I'm talking about the one that got killed. Who was running? All right.
Yeah.
He was running, and it came out that he broke no laws. So, do you know when he actually got killed?
Wasn't he in a house?
That's what the story was, but it came out that he broke no laws. It's not illegal to run through a house that's open. So a construction. That's not illegal to run through a construction zone. So, okay. But here's the question: when did he die?
I don't know. I don't know enough about
February the 28th. When did it came? The only reason, and they said it was a justified killing, and they said that they everything they wrote in the report was an absolute positive lie. Right? The only reason that we know anything about Ahmaud Arbery is because a video came out. If we never saw a video that came out, he would have been killed in silence and nobody would have known.
Do you think that doesn't happen in the white community? That black people don't kill white people and nobody raises hell about it? It happens all the time. There's people that are posting it on social media. I just don't have the names in front of me because I don't look for it. The thing is I'm not
talking about crime. I'm talking about systemic. I'm not talking about crime. I'm talking about people who can justify killing. I'm not talking about crime. I'm not talking about when someone kills somebody. I'm not talking about illegal. I'm talking about unjust. Right?
Yeah. No. I'm sure that. Yeah. I don't know enough about the story, but what you said. If that's true.
He was killed in February 23rd, excuse me, on February the 23rd. But they didn't, 2 months later is when is when it all went down about Ahmaud Arbery. 2 months. It was 2 months because the guy that killed him and the son or whatever, they were the former police officer, former district attorney. He was or assistant district attorney. He was able to cover it up and have all of his friends or whatever cover it up. He was able to. So when you look at a percentage, right? When you look at not that many people, not that happen. For instance, if we go back to 1991 and we go back to Rodney King in 1991, if you go back there and you look at, in 1991, we saw them brutalizing Rodney King, right? But we didn't see them blink about it. We didn't see them think twice about it. We didn't see them. So we have to come to the conclusion that this happens all the time. Right?
Why?
Because 7 people were out there just doing it. 7 police officers. We have to come to that conclusion. We have to come to that conclusion because we have to look at the evidence from the culture.
Generalization. That's classifying people like to say, because this group of people did this.
No, I'm sorry.
Must mean that
the
it
black
happens all the
people
time.
were screaming, "This happens all the time," and no one was listening. The black people were screaming. Listen, NWA wrote a song 3 years prior to that, screaming, "This is what happens." Screaming. Yeah. And we saw it. We ignored it. For some reason, we don't care. This is, for some reason, it's not going to be on the books. It's not going to be in the statistics. Right? Every one of the police officers that brutalized on video Rodney King walked. No jail time for nobody. It happens all the time. It is like, I know it's hard to see a systemic problem because it's nuanced.
What's the solution? What's the solution?
What do you mean?
What's the solution?
Brutalization be illegal.
This is what I look at. I see the numbers, because this isn't about police brutality. The conversation is not about police brutality. It's about race.
Absolutely.
And when I see the number 0.017% of all black deaths are from white cops, there's no evidence to support the argument. So let me. You got people that are out policing the law. They're on, and a white cop is 18 and a half times more likely to get killed by a black person than he is a white person. Maybe it's because they're looking for more crime. I don't know, but that would make me act a little different. And I'm not standing up for the ones that are racist. They deserve to be punished. Racism is wrong. But if you're 18 and a half times more likely to be killed by a certain segment of the population, it might make you act a little different. And just, if you look at somebody that's out policing the law,
if it makes you act different, you should try another career.
No, period. Listen, you would act different. If I'm going to walk through a bad neighborhood at night, I'm going to walk a little faster. Because if I know I'm 18 and a half times more likely to get mugged, I'm going to act a little different. Let's
move away from the comparison of justice to crime. I mean, injustice to crime, because we can't make that comparison. Also, let's move away from making a comparison of murder. Of a murder rate to unjust act, because just because more black people are killed by more black people, that's crime, right? We're not talking about crime. We're talking about injustice. And just because more black people are killed by more black people doesn't justify that a white cop or a police officer, let's say white because it's police in general, it's the system. So a police officer can shoot a black man and walk away because it be called not a crime. That's the numbers. This is where our funny statistics.
The numbers aren't there. The numbers aren't there. 0.017. There was 2 black people killed by white cops unarmed.
You're comparing. What you're doing is you're saying 0.017
of all the deaths,
right?
So if there are so many racist cops,
what we're doing is we're comparing crime, right, to injustice, right? 100% of those things were injustice. That's what matters. It doesn't matter because what we don't see is
how would you say they're 100% injustice? Because some of the people might have been carrying guns, pointing them at the police, shooting at the police.
You're right. I'm saying that you're right. I'm saying that when you look at the act, right? When you look at the act of what we're talking about here, right? It's a normal thing to treat blacks differently. In the system, it is normal to treat blacks differently. For instance, Rodney King didn't die, right? He lived through that scenario.
30 years ago, and people are still playing that card. Look,
Because
I'm sure there
it
were.
still happens. Clearly,
Okay, listen,
it happened 2 weeks ago.
White people get killed twice as often as black people.
No,
Yes, they do.
Is double as many. It's not twice as often.
No,
Double
double as many.
Okay, the rate of blacks is higher than the rate of whites by like 40%.
Look at the percentage of violent crimes, though, and the percentage of
violent
crimes. The percentage of violent crimes is pretty even. It's almost 50% white, or it's almost 50% black to 50% white.
That's bad.
The same amount of whites.
Right. That's bad when the percentage.
Violent crimes.
That's bad when the percentage of blacks is 13% and the percentage of white
very
is 64.
Bad.
So if we're looking, if you look at the way that the system is structured. Right? If you look at the way that the system is structured, I can tell you this, 50% of all people who were charged or in jail for crimes they didn't commit are black, right? Which means that they are jailed and locked up and for at a far higher rate than everybody than everyone else. It should be about even, right? If 13% of blacks exist in this. If 13% of blacks exist in this country, then there's only be 13% of blacks incarcerated.
You think that has to do with skin color and not their economic standing when they were born?
Economic standing has to do with skin color.
I 100% agree.
Okay.
Yep.
So yes,
I 100% agree.
They can both be yes. So both of those answers.
But it's not because of skin color. I doubt Barack Obama's kids are ever going to go to jail. They're not going to commit crime. They were born very, very wealthy in great neighborhoods, went to great schools. They're not going to end up in jail. I've been arrested 20 times, probably more. You haven't barely.
Yeah, but
maybe
you was a little thug.
Exactly. But I'm saying it has to do with.
I wasn't. I still
got
arrested.
To do with decisions. And if I look at Baltimore,
how many times a cop pulled a gun out on you?
I got tased. I don't know, 5 or 6 times at once. I got hit.
So
I got hit with a police club, in my knee. I think it broke my kneecap. I don't know that I've ever had a gun.
Blacks who never got in trouble. That happens to. Blacks who never lived that kind of life. That happens to. Blacks,
I get it.
The blacks who that happens to. And to me, that unfair process there. And I get what you're saying, and it's a normal thing that people that white, and I don't know that most other races understand or empathize with it. It's only when we talk in particular to white people who like to say it doesn't exist. And when you lived in it, and I'm more privileged than you, yet still I have the same black experience. It should be the other way around. It should be.
Have you ever had a gun pulled on you?
Absolutely. 3
By
times.
the cop?
Yes.
Okay.
3 times. Right? The scenario was I was parked in a parking lot. The scenario was all 3 times I was doing nothing illegal. The scenario was I was pulled over. What was I pulled over? I can't even remember why he pulled me over. It was me. I was a kid, man. I was 17, right? Pulled over. Maybe I was just driving through the wrong neighborhood. I don't even remember what the instance, but I was pulled over and 20 cops come behind us with guns drawn. Three times in my life, and I was never. I was never that. I was never built like that. I was never built as a kid that would ever got in any real trouble other than just stupid stuff, but never with the police. So, but every black person has that experience. Who we cannot ignore the fact that it happens. We can say, we can make it individual, but it's not individual until it's individual, right? Until people start saying, like, it's not individual until we make it individual. Like we can't listen. The statistics of, let's say, white drug the statistics of white drug arrest will balance itself out if all areas are policed in the same manner. If people feel, and you'll see the black on black crime go down.
The crime rate is going to be higher in the poverty-stricken areas. I grew up in a poverty-stricken area. I know that those people commit crimes at a higher rate. Period. So you're not going to. That's like people, they want to search grandma when she gets on a plane because it's politically correct. I'm like, that is stupid.
Here's the deal. I've never lived in a poverty-stricken
area. I know, but
area.
you're saying that if all areas are policed the same, the crime rate will balance out. And I'll say, no, it won't. Because I'm telling you, the affluent areas, they're not committing crime. They're making good decisions. That's why they got there.
That is most definitely not true.
It's 100% true. They work, they have jobs, they go to bed early, they get up early, and that's why they made it to that level.
If police stay in areas in which they aren't poverty stricken, if police stay in those areas, randomly pull people over, they will find just as many. They'll find just as many drug offenses because it's statistically the same. We all
listen. People in the county aren't doing drugs like people in the hood. They're in the hood for a reason.
You don't know that because they.
I do know that. I grew up in the hood, Shawn.
I
know those people commit. The reason they're in the hood is because they're making bad decisions. They're getting high.
They were just born there.
So they can't work their way out like a Ben Carson or Candace Owens.
They're taught how to, but who's going to teach you how to?
I tell you how you're not going to learn, by somebody patting on your head and saying you don't have privilege, so you can't make it. The odds are automatically stacked against you.
You know, what is it about people that if someone says, what is it about people that if someone says, "Hey, this is how I feel," that we have to say, "Oh, that's not real." What is it about people that we can't just say, you know what?
I'm not saying it's not real.
I'm sorry that you were born in this scenario, and I was like, I can do it in a heartbeat, right? I know that there are scenarios in which, for instance, if I was in I don't know, Rwanda back in the day, right? And I might have ideas of how to improve Rwanda, right? Because God made me like that, and I might have ideas because of where I'm from. And it was so much poverty, and it's just a third world country, and I may have some ideas just of where I'm from and what I was taught of what we can do to improve this area in which I came in, because I was blessed because of where I'm from. I could at no point go into Rwanda and say, listen, it's y'all fault because y'all here. Y'all need to learn how to pull yourself up. Y'all need to learn how to do this. Y'all need to learn how to do that. Y'all need to learn how to. And it's almost like, and yes, this is a more nuanced conversation, right? Because we can look at successful people, and then we can look at people who are bad, and we can look at, but a lot of people, I think it's our job as people, as human beings, right? To first and foremost empathize with the position where other people are from, or empathize with. I think it's our job to empathize with people who don't, who aren't like us, who don't see the world like us, who don't have the same opinion as us. It's our job to understand them and empathize with them. It's also our job to as humans to show someone whom may not have the knowledge and the skill set and the backing and the background, because it's not, maybe it didn't come from your home, and maybe it came from your church, and maybe it was just your heart, and maybe, who knows, but it is our, in my opinion, it's our responsibility, just as individuals, just as people in general, to say, it's not my place to argue with someone who says that, I am hurt. It hurts when I see. It hurts when I see things like a police officer brutally murder someone on camera in front of other officers, in front of witnesses, and not give a crap. Like, that is not just a bad person. That is a disconnected human being, and disconnected being taught by a system that allows him to disconnect is not simply just a bad person. And I think when people, I think when that is when you can see that, listen, it happens all the time around the country. Some of them get videoed, and we see it, but it was happening when the videos weren't existing. It was happening.